The contrast between Biden, who, even when his substance is strong, his grasp of policy unmatched, he still looks weak. His delivery is that of someone who is 81 years old. Contrast that against President Trump, where the defining image of this campaign is going to be Trump, defiant, raising his fist, bloodied, framed by an American flag and armed Secret Service agents. That's an image that you cannot script. And it's the one that will be in history books in 40, 50, 100 years when we look back at this day. That's the contrast that's going to be drawn between President Trump and Biden when he does come out and do his Oval Office press conference tonight. He will call for unity. He is absolutely correct to do so. That's the only message he can put forward. But it doesn't do much to erase voters' main concern, which is questions about his age and his ability to continue in the role.
Clayton, how do you think all of this is being perceived by the United States partners overseas? We're just on the back of that NATO summit in Washington, D.C. And I've got to say, looking at this from Asia, it just feels like the United States is taking on the characteristics of a developing country even. We saw the assault on Capitol Hill. We now see a political landscape that is arguably so polarized. We are seeing near assassination attempts, fatal assassination attempts. Is America becoming like a developing country, and how is that going to be perceived by international markets and America's partners?
America is the only major democracy in the world who cannot run an election that's perceived as legitimate by every voter that participates, or at least a vast majority of them. That's absolutely a headwind to the future of our country and the continued smooth functioning of our democracy. Do I think that democracy is at a point where it's truly at risk? No. But this is absolutely the worst that we've seen: polarization, division, and everything else. Your point about January 6th is very well taken. I live about 6 blocks from the Capitol. This is a discussion that we have more frequently than I would prefer in Washington. Are we trending towards that model of volatility, the model that we in D.C. would normally call the emerging markets, the global south? It's now something that could apply to the U.S. when you look at the tenor and behavior of our political campaigns. I think absolutely that's a risk worth mentioning. When it comes to U.S. allies, I think that the real impact here is what this does for our adversaries. Does it invite more opportunistic activity, efforts by Russia to build on its political misinformation campaigns to divide America more fully? Does it open an opportunity for people who wish to do harm to the U.S. political system to do that more effectively?
Clayton, if it does come down to a Trump presidency and a Republican sweep of Congress, what does that mean in policy terms? What is that going to look like in terms of the relationship with China, with NATO, and the rest of the world?
With China, antagonism. With NATO, opportunism and transactional trades. With the rest of the world, volatility and shifts. You're going to see more aggressive trade policy, erection of trade barriers intended to give the U.S. opportunities to renegotiate balance of payments and market access. You're going to see a winnowing or a withdrawal of the U.S. from the global security stage. The U.S. will be a less present partner and a less stable guarantor of security in Europe and elsewhere. And that's going to cast major changes in the way that the world functions and the way the U.S. functions within it. I think that's our expectation globally. Here at home, I think you're going to see a shift again, as you saw in the first Trump administration, towards deregulation, extension of tax cuts. And the biggest impact that we would expect is you're probably going to see deficits continue to increase. Those tax cuts do impose a major deficit impact. That's going to be one of the defining traits of what we expect from a Trump policy agenda.